So finally, this is the last part of section 1.8, and it's different because the left side may be factored or partially factored, but the right side isn't zero, and that's the worst situation of all. For each of the problems between 61 and 78, the right side isn't zero, and to solve problems that have factoring, the right side has to be zero, otherwise I just can't know the answer. For instance, 1 is not an answer for problem 62. If problem 62 I thought 1 was an answer because the x minus 1 parentheses would give you that, if I plugged 1 in for x, I'd get 1 times 0 on the left-hand side. The right-hand side would be 6. And this would give me no good because 0 doesn't equal 6. I actually think x equals 3 isn't one of the answers for 6, because if I change that first x to 3 along with that second x to 3, I'd get 3 times 2 equals to 6, and that gives me 6 equals to 6. There's actually two solutions to this, one positive and one negative, and in order to get those two solutions I got to go through a whole bunch of work. For each of the problems between 61 and 78, first, I'm going to clear the parentheses, and if there are like terms, combine. So any parentheses there happen to be in 61 through 78, because the right side isn't 0, I'm going to clear the parentheses, and if they're like terms, combine them. Then I'm going to set the problem equal to 0. Get 0 on one side. It doesn't matter which side 0 is going to be on, but it's usually on the right hand side. Then I'm going to factor, and then I'm going to solve. So, and then because this is such an involved process, I'm going to go ahead and check. Let me start with 62 and throw it up here. So 62, the left side is factored. If the right side was 0, the answers would be 1 and 0. Common factors with an x give a solution of 0 if the right side is 0. Factors of x minus 1 give a solution of 6 if the right side is 0. When the right side isn't 0, I need to destroy the parentheses. To destroy this parentheses, I'm going to multiply x times x and x times minus 1. This will give me x squared minus 1x on the left side. And I'm done with the first step. I cleared parentheses. There aren't any like terms to combine. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by minusing 6 from both sides and get x squared minus 1x minus 6 equals to 0. And now I'm going to factor, and I'm going to start factoring in my head because I think you should be able to factor now. So pause the video, try to factor it yourself, and see if you come up with that this factors into x plus 2 times x minus 3. I'm sight factoring, splitting the x's between the firsts, and the numbers need to multiply to negative 6, and 2 and negative 3 multiply to negative 6, and they need to add, subtract to negative 1. 2 plus negative 3 is the same as 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. Now that I have it factored and set equal to 0, then I can pluck out the answers. The x plus 2 factor, I'd minus 2 from both sides, I'd give an answer of negative 2. The x minus 3 factors, I'd add 3 to both sides, I'd give an answer of 3. For problem 62, I claim the answers are x equal to negative 2 and x equal to 3. I already checked the 3, I know that it's an answer. Let me check the x equal to negative 2 by taking each of the x's in the original problem and changing them to negative 2. So I'm going to go negative 2 for the first x, parentheses, negative 2 minus 1 for the second x, and make sure that equals to 6. Let me check this on my calculator. Mode 1, negative 2 times negative 2 minus 1, and that equals to 6. So the answers that I just came up with both check. So I followed my steps perfectly, cleared the parentheses, there weren't any like terms that combined, set equal to 0, factor, solve, and check. I'll do that for all of these. I'm going to do the same for 64. The left side is factored. If the right side was 0, the answer would be 0 and 5. Because the right side isn't 0, I need to go through these steps. First step, clear the parentheses. I'm going to multiply y times y and y times minus 5. So I'll do y times y and y times minus 5 on the left-hand side. Y times y is y squared. Y times minus 5 is minus 5y. On the right-hand side, I have negative 4. Done with the first step because clearing the parentheses didn't lead any to like terms. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by adding 4 to both sides. And I get y squared minus 5y plus 4 equals to 0. Then I'm going to cite factor. I'm going to make the first parentheses have a couple of y's, and my numbers need to be double negative. They need to multiply to positive 4. My choices would be negative 2 and negative 2, or negative 1 and negative 4, and they need to add the negative 5. The negative 1 and negative 4 adds to negative 5. The negative 2 and negative 2 adds to negative 4. So in my parentheses, I'm going to get a negative 1 and negative 4. So I cleared my parentheses, there weren't any like terms. I set equal to 0. I factored. Now I'm going to set the factors equal to 0 and get answers. When I set the y minus 1 equal to 0, I'll add 1 to both sides and get y equal to 1. When I set the y minus 4 equal to 0, I'll add 4 to both sides and get y equal to 4. The answer, I think, for 64 is y equal to 1 and y equal to 4. I should check, and to check, I'm going to use the unchanged problem, y times y minus 5 equals negative 4. I'm going to separately plug 1 and 4 in. When I check the 1, I'm going to see if 1 times 1 minus 5 equals negative 4. When I check the 4, I'll see if 4 times 4 minus negative 5 equals negative 4. My answer is only right if I'm left with a true statement. So first check 1 times 1 minus 5. That gives me negative 4, so this one's good because it gives me negative 4 on both sides. And the second one, I do 4 times 4 minus 5. And that also is a checker. That gives me negative 4 equals negative 4. So for these, it's kind of important to check because there's so many steps. It's so easy to make a mistake that you should check. So you should give 61 and 63 a go. They should work just the same as 62 and 64. For problem 66, the answers aren't 1 and 2. If the right side was 0, the answers would be 1 and 2. But because the right side isn't 0, I got to go through these steps. First step, I'm going to clear the parentheses. On the left-hand side, to clear the parentheses, I'm going to multiply x times x and get x squared. X times minus 2 and get minus 2x. Minus 1 times x and get minus 1x. Minus 1 times minus 2 and get plus 2. That's clearing the parentheses. I'm going to combine these like terms. They're both are negative, so I'm going to get a negative 3x plus 2. So I've done the first step, combine like terms, and cleared parentheses. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by minusing 12 from both sides. This is going to give me x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals to 0. I'm going to cite factor. This is going to give me a couple of x's up front. My numbers need to multiply to negative 10. They need to add, subtract to negative 3. Big number is minus, small number is plus. It's going to be 2 and negative 5 because 2 times negative 5 is negative 10, and 2 plus negative 5 is the same as 2 minus 5, which is negative 3. So one of my parentheses to the left of the equal 0 is going to have a plus 2. The other is going to have a minus 5. Now I can read the answers off. I don't need to do any more. The first parentheses is going to give me a negative 2. The second parentheses is going to give me a 5. Let me go ahead and check into the original problem. So into the original problem, I'm going to put negative 2 for x. I'll see if negative 2 minus 1 times negative 2 minus 2, I'll see if that equals to 12. And then I'll check the 5. I'll see if 5 minus 1 times 5 minus 2, I'll see if that equals to 12. Calculator check is easier. So first one, parentheses, negative 2 minus 1 times negative 2 minus 2 This one gives me 12 equal to 12, so I know my answer is right. And then 5 minus 1 times 5 minus 2, that one gives me 12 equals to 12, so I know both my answers are right. Let's do 67 together. Maybe it'll save you a homework problem. So 67, I need to go through all these steps, clearing the parentheses and combining like terms because the right side isn't 0. If the right side was 0, the answer would be -1 and 4. Because it's not, I have to get rid of the factoring. On the left-hand side, I'm going to multiply x times x and get x squared. I'm going to multiply x times minus 4 and get minus 4x. I'm going to multiply 1 times x and get plus 1x. I'm going to multiply 1 times minus 4 and get minus 4. And I'm going to combine like terms. Minus 4x plus 1x is negative 3x. Now that's the end of the first step, combine like terms, cleared parentheses. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by minusing 6 from both sides. On the left-hand side, I'm going to get a negative 10 because the two numbers without the letters are both negative. I'll add those and keep them negative. And now I'm going to cite factor because there's not a number in front of the squared. Since there's not a number in front of the squared, I'm looking for numbers that multiply to negative 10, that add subtract to negative 3. And the numbers are going to be 2 and negative 5 because 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. 2 plus negative 5, that's the adding part, is the same as 2 minus 5, that's the subtracting part, which is negative 3. When I go to factor this, which was the next step, I'm going to get a plus 2 and a minus 5 for my parentheses. Now I can just get the answers by inspection. That's the solving part. First parentheses is going to give me a negative 2. I'm just changing the sign. Second parentheses is going to give me a 5. Should go into checking mode. I'm going to check the negative 2 into the original problem. See if negative 2 plus 1 times negative 2 minus 4. Make sure that equals 6. And do the same with 5. See if 5 plus 1 times 5 minus 4 equals to 6, and I'm just going to calculator check because I've done so many videos today that I don't feel like thinking about this. So there's my first check, and that gives me 6 equal to 6, so I know that answer is right. Now my second check, that works as well. Should check every one of these because there are many steps, too many places to make mistakes. 70, the answer isn't going to be 0 and 4. If the right side was 0, the answer would be 0 and 4. But the right side isn't 0, so I need to go through the steps. I'm going to clear the parentheses on the left-hand side by multiplying 4x times x and 4x times minus 4. The 4x times x is 4x squared. The 4x times minus 4 is minus 16x. That's clearing my parentheses. There's no like terms to combine. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by adding 12 both sides. On the left-hand side, the 12 is just going to tag along at the end. And now I'm going to factor. The first step, I'm going to 1 parentheses common factor, the common factor of 4. When I factor it out, I'm left with x squared minus 4x plus 3. And then I'm going to factor by looking for numbers that multiply to positive 3 and add to negative 4. And that's going to be negative 1 and negative 3. They're double negative. If you multiply them, you get positive 3. And if you add them, you get negative 4. So this guy factors into 4 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. Common factors without an x don't give a solution. The x minus 1 gives a solution of 1. The x minus 3 gives a solution of 3. Done, but I should check. So the first checking, I'm going to plug a 1 in for both of those x's and see if 4 times 1 times 1 minus 4 equals negative 12. My second checking, I'll plug in 3 and see if 4 times 3 times 3 minus 4 equals negative 12. So first checking, 4 times 1 times 1 minus 4. That gives me negative 12. On the left-hand side, it matches with negative 12 on the right-hand side. That works. And then the next, 4 times 3 times 3 minus 4. That also checks. It gives me negative 12 equal to negative 12. So I know my answers are correct. Let's do 71 together. I think it's harder. So I'm going to clear the parentheses for 71 because the right side isn't 0. The answer of negative 2 that you'd get from setting that parentheses equal to 0 only would work if the right side is 0. So I'm going to clear my parentheses. I'm going to go 2x times x, 2x times 2, minus 3 times x, and minus 3 times 2. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is a positive 4x. Minus 3 times x is minus 3x. Minus 3 times 2 is minus 6. And I have the equal to 4. That's the beginning of the first step. Clear the parentheses. Now I'm going to combine the like terms. 4x minus 3x is 1x. Done with the first step. Second step, set it equal to 0. To set it equal to 0, this is a 4 on this side. To set it equal to 0, I'm going to minus 4 from both sides and get 2x squared plus 1x minus 10 equals to 0. Now I need to group factor this. So I'm going to multiply the 2 and the minus 10 and get minus 20. I need numbers plus and minus that multiply to minus 20 and that add but really subtract to positive 1. And that's going to be 5 and negative 4 because 5 times negative 4 is negative 20 and 5 plus negative 4 is really the same as 5 minus 4, which is 1. So I'm going to break this up here. I'm running out of room. I'm going to make it 2x squared and then plus 5x. I'm violating a rule here. Let me think. And so this 1x, I could make it 5x minus 4x, but I don't like that. Or this 1x, I could make it negative 4x plus 5x. I do like that. Let me just try to squeeze it in here. So I'm going to make this 2x squared minus 4x plus 5x minus 10 equals to 0. Insert my parentheses. First parentheses, I factor out a 2x. I'll be left with an x minus 2. Second parentheses, factor out a 5, and I'll be left with an x minus 2. Still have that equal to 0 that I created on the right-hand side. Now I'm going to get it completely factored and make it x minus 2 times 2x plus 5 equals to 0. The x minus 2 factor gives an answer of 2. The 2x plus 5 factor gives an answer of negative 5 halves. You get that by minusing 5 from both sides to give me 2x equals to negative 5 and dividing by 2 on both sides to give me the negative 5 halves. I think the answer is x equal to 2 and x equal to negative 5 halves. Very safe to check. The original problem before I did anything in 71 was 2x minus 3 times x plus 2 equals to 4. First I'm going to check the 2 and see if 2 times 2 minus 3 times 2 plus 2, I'm going to see if that equals to 4. And then I'll move on to the negative 5 halves. I'll do 2 times negative 5 halves minus 3 times negative 5 halves plus 2. That's not even readable. And make sure that equals to 4. I'm just changing both of those x's to the numbers I need to. So first one, parentheses 2 times 2 minus 3, close the parentheses, and then parentheses 2 plus 2, close the parentheses. That's supposed to equal 4, and it does, so that answer is correct. The second one, I need to change that 2 to a negative 5 halves. and I need to change that to a negative 5 halves. Hopefully I get 4 because the right side is 4, and I did, so I know that answer is correct for 71. Just a few more problems, actually 3 more problems, and I'm not going to be able to fit them. Let's do 73 together just to get some of this hard stuff done while you're with me. Pause the video, try to do 73. If you have no idea what to do, watch me. Once you get to the point where you know what to do, stop, pause it, and check. So in 73, I'm going to clear the parentheses by going x times x and x times minus 3. That's going to give me x squared minus 3x on the left-hand side. I still have the plus 2. I still have the equal to 30. That's the first step of clearing the parentheses. There aren't any like terms. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 by minusing 30, minusing 30. I'm going to get x squared minus 3x. 2 minus 30 is negative 28, equal to 0. So that's the end of the second step. First I cleared parentheses that weren't like terms. Now I'm setting equal to 0. Then I'm going to factor. For my factoring, I'm going to sight factor because there's not a number in front of the squared term. I'm going to lead off with a couple of x's. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to negative 28, that add but really subtract to negative 3. And that's going to be 4 and negative 7, because 4 times negative 7 is negative 28, and 4 plus negative 7 is the same as 4 minus 7, and that's negative 3. So one of my parentheses is going to get a 4, the other is going to get a minus 7. I can write my answers pretty quickly here. First parentheses, I'm just going to change the sign and get a negative 4. Second parentheses, change the sign and get 7. When I check, I'm checking into that guy right there. So when I go to check to make sure I haven't made a mistake, I'm going to use x times x minus 3 plus 2 equals to 30. I'll plug negative 4 in and see if negative 4 times negative 4 minus 3 plus 2, I'm going to see if that equals to 30. And then I'll see if 7 times 7 minus 3 plus 2, I'll see if that equals 30. So 2 different checks because there's 2 different answers. First checking, negative 4 parentheses, negative 4 minus 3, close the parentheses, plus 2. That gives me 30, so that answer is right. And then the second checking, I'm going to change that negative 4 to a 7 and that negative 4 to a 7, and hopefully I get another 30, which I do. So both those answers are correct, so I feel good about 73. Oh, let's do 75 together, and then maybe I'm just going to be done. I'm feeling worn out. 75, I need 2 sets of parentheses to clear. On the left-hand side, to clear the parentheses, first step, I do 2x times x and 2x times minus 3. If you have an idea of what you want to do for 75, pause the video, see if you can get it without me. If you can't, then take a peek at what I do. On the right-hand side, 5x times x, 5x times minus 4. That gives me a 5x squared. Minus 4x, I still have the plus 8. Done with the first step, I cleared both parentheses. There aren't any like terms on the left side, there aren't any like terms on the right side. Now I'm going to set it equal to 0 and be tricky. I don't like to have negatives in front of my squared terms, so in the step to set it equal to 0, for the first time, I'm going to get a 0 on the left side, as opposed to on the right side. You could have the 0 on either side, it doesn't matter. On the left-hand side, I've canceled out both the 6x's and the 2x squareds, and I have a 0. On the right-hand side, 5x squared minus 2x squared is 3x squared. Negative 4x plus 6x is positive 2x. I'm going to bring down the plus 8. Oh, I have a mistake here. I should pull out a pencil. I forgot to do this. This 5x times 4, this should be a minus 20x. I wrote 5x times minus 4, but I didn't do it. So this minus 20x plus 6x should be a negative 14x. So what I should have, after I found and fixed my mistake, I should have 0 equals to 3x squared minus 14x plus 8. I'm going to group factor this. I'm going to multiply the 3 and 8 and get 24. I need numbers double negative that multiply to 24 that add to negative 14. And that's going to be negative 2 and negative 12, because negative 2 times negative 12 is positive 24, and negative 2 plus negative 12 is negative 14. So I'm going to take that negative 14x that I flubbed on and make it minus 2x minus 12x. So I get 0 equals to 3x squared minus 2x minus 12x plus 8, factoring by grouping, so I'm going to insert some parentheses, sub the negative in the second parentheses. First parentheses, common factor of an x. When you factor out an x, you're left with a 3x minus 2. Second parentheses, I need to factor out a negative because the parentheses leads with a negative. I need to factor out a 4 because that's the greatest common factor. Change that negative sign to positive, divide that 12 by 4 and get 3. Leave the x. Change that positive sign to negative, divide that 8 by 4 and get 2. Almost factored now. I'm going to write the common parentheses of 3x minus 2, followed by the x minus 4. The 3x minus 2 gives a solution of 2/3. Because to get that, I would add 2 to both sides, which would give me 3x equals to 2, and then I would divide by 3. That would give me x equal to 2/3. That guy gives me a solution of 4. I just have to change the signs. So I think for 75, the answer is x equal to 2/3 and x equal to 4. Should definitely check. Need to dig out the original problem for 75, which is that mess. And for each x, I need to plug a 2/3. So the first checking, I need to see if 2 times 2/3, parentheses, times 2/3 minus 3, which is the left-hand side, if that equals 5 times 2/3, gosh, times 2/3 minus 4 plus 8. I have to do the left and the right side separately. Would never check this without a calculator. Even with a calculator, I'm probably going to mess up. So left side, 2 times parentheses 2/3, parentheses 2/3 minus 5, close my parentheses. The left-hand side comes out to negative 52/9. I'm worried, but I hope the right side comes out to be the same. The only time your answer is right is if both sides come out to the same number. So right side now, 5 times fraction 2/3 times parentheses 2/3 minus 4, close my parentheses, plus 8, that's the right side. And I get, negative 28/9. So I've got issues here, and I don't know if the issues are in my checking or where they're at. Let me just sit back here. Left-hand side, make sure this multiplies out. That feels good. So 2/3. So 2 times 2/3 times 2/3 minus 3. 5 times 2/3 times 2/3 minus 4 plus 8. I don't know if I can find this mistake right now. Let me redo the left-hand side. Into this original problem, I go 2 times fraction 2/3, parentheses, and then parentheses, fraction 2/3 minus 3. Left-hand side should be, I think I had a 5 there and not a 3. I was reading something wrong. So the left-hand side really does wind up equaling the right-hand side if you enter it correctly. I entered it wrong. Next, check the 4. I'm going to go to this problem and go is 2 times 4 minus 3 equal to 5 times 4 times 4 minus 4 plus 8. So left-hand side, 2 times 4 times 4 minus 3. Left-hand side comes out to 8. Right-hand side, 5 times 4 times 4 minus 4 plus 8. Right-hand side comes out to 8. So those answers, in fact, check and they're correct. A lot of times checking is harder than doing the problems. I'm not sure that it was here. I'll sketch the beginning of 77. I want you to do it, but we're at over 30 minutes into a monstrously long section. So if I was doing 77, I'd start off and go x times x is x squared. X times minus 4 is minus 4x plus 1. And the right-hand side is x plus 7 or 1x plus 7. I would subtract 1x and subtract 7 from both sides. What's going to give me x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals to 0. I'd factor it, and I think for answers you're going to get x equal to -1 and x equal to 6 if I've done it properly in my head. So go ahead and do 77. We have one section left in the chapter. It's not hard, but it is our first stab at word problems. So hopefully this section didn't wear you down. It definitely wore me out. There was a lot to get through in this section.